It's a real story. My uncle died, and I inherited his haunted house. What happened? Next will terrify you. I never imagined that I would inherit a house, let alone one as foreboding as Ravenswood. House. The letter that arrived in the mail felt heavy with the weight of its contents. Illegal. Document stating the transfer of ownership from my estranged uncle, who I had only met a handful of times, had passed away. My fingers trembled as I read the contents. Ravenswood. House. The word consistently echoed in my mind. It sounded like a title from an old Gothic novel. Curiosity overwhelmed my apprehension when I decided to visit. My grandmother often told stories about her brother and how he was consumed by the downfall of Ravenswood, a once majestic mansion now cloaked in shadows and overgrown with weeds. It seemed almost poetic that I would be called back to the family's roots, drawn to the very place that kindled both my imagination and fear. As I drove down the long gravel path, the trees loomed like sentinels on either side there, branches gnarled and twisting into wicked shapes. I could see the old structure in the distance, something beyond derelict, with its once grand pillars succumbing to the weight of time and neglect. The sun hung low, casting an eerie glow that bathed the house in a strangling haze, and my heart raced with anticipation and dread. Stepping through the front door, the first thing that struck me was the silence. It enveloped me like a heavy cloak, thick and suffocating. The air was still, thick with dust that danced in the shafts of fading daylight. Creaking floorboards moaned underfoot as I ventured into the foyer, and my own breathing felt too loud in the oppressive silence. I was enveloped by an unmistakable aura of dread, and the remnants of the past painted an unsettling picture. The walls were decorated with faded floral wallpaper, peeling at the edges, and every room felt like a time capsule, containing whispers of laughter and sorrow. Family portraits adorned the walls, their subjects forever gazing into nothingness. Their eyes seemed to follow me, igniting a primal instinct to flee. But something rooted me to the spot, a mixture of duty and curiosity, tangled within my heart. As I explored the sprawling house, the oppressive weight of history pressed down on me. History not just of my family, but of something darker that lingered in the atmosphere. A strange sense of kinship with this desolate space stirred within me, even as I felt an unsettling urge to turn back. The following day, I braved a visit to the nearby town. The cozy little shops and friendly faces offered warmth, but the moment I mentioned Ravenswood, the smiles faded. The townsfolk exchanged nervous glances, eyes darting to the ground, nearly choking on hesitation that hung thick in the air. "Be careful with that house," an elderly woman warned, her voice trembling as she leaned over the counter at the local diner. "Lila, she was a sweet girl, but they say she still wanders those halls, looking for something." I listened intently as she recounted the chilling tale of Lila, the girl who vanished from the house years ago, leaving behind an aura of mystery shrouded in sorrow. The woman's voice grew softer. "People say there are whispers in the night. She calls to those who enter the house. You best heed that warning." Yet, the stories only fueled my resolve, steering me deeper into my uncle's world, pushing me to unravel the untold horrors it concealed. With my mind racing and unease settling in my stomach as I arrived back at Ravenswood, I sought refuge in my uncle's study, hoping to find answers. The air smelled of mildew and neglect, but amidst the dust and cobwebs, I spotted a leather-bound diary nestled deep within a wooden desk. My fingers brushed over its surface, feeling a chill pass through me as I opened it. The entries, scrawled in hurried, frantic handwriting, unveiled my uncle's unraveling mind. His obsession with the house bled through the pages. Relationships strained and sanity frayed. He documented disjointed thoughts and feverish ramblings about whispers in the night, each page darker than the last. "Lila calls to me. I must help her escape," he wrote, the ink trailing off into a smudge. The words ignited a sense of urgency in my chest. What had he witnessed? What invisible force had entwined itself with our family? Each subsequent entry deepened the growing dread within me. The more I read, the more apocalyptic his view became. Visions twisted into grotesque nightmares where shadows played tricks on him, leading him to believe that Lila's spirit was beckoning him. That night, with darkness draping over the house like a suffocating blanket, sleep eluded me. The atmosphere felt electric, buzzing with tension. Alone in my room, I couldn't shake the feeling that the whispers would return, that the unsettling energy resonated through the very walls. And then, in the stillness of the night, it came, a soft, ethereal murmur lacing through the air, calling my name with urgency. At first, I dismissed it as a figment of my overactive imagination, but as the nights wore on, the whispers persisted, curling around me like soft fingers grazing my skin. Each passing night they grew closer, accompanied by distant footsteps, a gentle echo of something transitioning through the halls. I wanted to believe it was the house settling, the sounds of an old building, but deep down, reason crumbled under the weight of fear. The attic became my refuge during the day, a space filled with forgotten relics of my family. As I sifted through dusty boxes, I stumbled upon a particularly ornate portrait, an image that seemed to breathe. The young girl with cascading curls and a hauntingly mesmerizing gaze bore an unsettling resemblance to Lila. This was no ordinary portrait. The girl's eyes glimmered with an emotive sorrow that pierced through the layers of oil paint. After flipping the frame, I discovered an inscription etched into the back. "Find me and you'll understand." A chill raced down my spine as I considered the implications. Did the house itself contain a message, a directive to follow? The atmosphere shifted as I stood before her likeness, feeling an inexplicable connection to the long-lost girl whose fate intertwined with mine. Encouraged by a mix of dread and determination, I descended into the cellar once more. This time, I was resolved to confront whatever darkness lingered in the shadows. The cold air gripped me as I opened the door, revealing the hidden staircase that spiraled into the depths below. With each creak of the floor beneath me, I felt an unsettling awareness creeping in, the sense of being observed. As I entered the cellar, the air was thick with mildew and a strange sense of forbidden knowledge. The shadows positioned themselves like watchers, as if gauging my trespass. Toys lay strewn across the floor, relics of childhood lost to time. A broken porcelain doll with a cracked face stared blankly at me, and in that moment I felt a pang of sorrow for the innocents forsaken in the depths of Ravenswood. The centerpiece was an ancient rocking chair, creaking softly despite the stillness surrounding it, summoning me, anchoring me to this room that felt alive. I found remnants of Lila's life scattered around, peeling pictures, faded letters, a cradle long bereaved of its occupant. Yet it was the nursery rhyme scrawled in the dust on the wall that drew me closer, a haunting verse, repeating Lila's fate like a mournful chant. Suddenly, a sharp breeze swept through the room, extinguishing the with dread gripped my heart as shadows twisted, coalescing into the form of a girl, draped in white. My breath hitched in my throat, and a knot of fear tightened in my chest when I recognized her. It was Lila. Her face, though ethereal, bore a haunting familiarity, a ghostly reflection of the girl. In the portrait, the glow of her spirit illuminated the darkness around us, making the shadows retreat momentarily. I froze, rooted to the spot, as her sorrowful eyes met mine. "Help me," she whispered, her voice echoing like a dying breeze. I took a hesitant step forward, but she dissipated like smoke, leaving behind a lingering sadness that enveloped me. My heart raced with fear, battling the pull of fascination. I was torn between running away from the terror that faced me and stepping deeper into the darkness to understand the girl whose pain clung to every corner of Ravenswood. Each night passed haunted by nightmares of Lila. I woke in cold sweats, gasping for breath as the images replayed in my mind. I dreamt of the house engulfed in flames, her cries echoing as she reached out for me. This relentless cycle wore on my sanity, blurring the lines between dream and reality. Shadows stalked my waking hours, and whispers taunted me, spiraling into desperation. I began to question the effectiveness of my own resolve. The dread burrowed deeper into my core. Why did Lila choose to show me herself? Did she lead me to Ravenswood to bear witness to her suffering? The questions twisted like chains around my spirit, tightening with each passing moment. Determined to confront my growing fears, I turned to my uncle's journal. Late one night, the entries melted together before my eyes, searching for hints to guide my quest. As I waited, through the chaos of mental deterioration, a passage struck me with clarity. She only shows herself when the moon is full. Beware the hour of her call. The irony was not lost on me. Tonight was that night. Taking a deep breath, I steeled myself to confront whatever malevolence lingered within Ravenswood. As darkness descended, painting the world in shades of midnight blue, I felt the air shift. I stepped into the hidden room, heart pounding, candles flickering in anticipation. With resolve, I settled into the circle of candles, hoping to engage with Lila's spirit and understand her plight. I closed my eyes, envisioning her sad, yearning face, and began speaking her name. The air around me thickened, vibrating with energy as whispers filled the silence, becoming a cacophony of voices entwined with the night. The shadows twitched at the edges of my vision, swirling as if breathing, when the familiar chill sucked the warmth from the room. The light shifted, and there she was, a shimmering figure, ethereal yet sorrowful, the same depth of emotion radiating from her presence. "Help me," she whispered, her eyes brimming with pain. Lila's voice entwined with the rustling of the ether, unraveling threads of fear woven around her story. Now I felt an obligation to free her. "You must confront the truth," she urged, her voice rising above the whispering shadows. Guided by Lila's spirit, I recalled the letter riddled within my uncle's writings, the hidden chamber he mentioned. I surged with determination, feeling the moment at hand, and suddenly the unease shifted into fervor. I found the loose floorboard beneath the rocking chair. Prying it open with shaking hands, my breath caught in my throat as I uncovered a rusted metal box. Inside, I found aged scraps of fabric and a small lock of hair, a dusty treasure aligning with Lila's presence, alongside a letter from my uncle. Written hastily, it spoke of the family's dark past, a pact made to ensure prosperity, rooted in an insatiable greed that rewarded betrayal. I felt the weight of my ancestors' sins pressing down, binding me to their legacy. The final lines chilled me to my core. Only by understanding Lila's fate can I free our family and her spirit. I grasped the letter tightly, a wave of conflicting emotions crashing against my chest: fear, empathy, and the crushing weight of responsibility. I spent days processing the truths I uncovered, coming to grips with the severity of our curse, a darkness rooted deep within my bloodline. Lila had suffered because our family chose greed over love, and her spirit remained trapped, longing for closure. With each passing hour, the whispers grew more frantic, urging me to address the antagonism I felt toward my family's legacy. As the full moon waned to darkness, my internal turmoil intensified. I struggled against the desire to escape Ravenswood that gnawed at me. The house loomed larger in my nightmares, mirroring my own struggles with abandonment and doubtful heritage. I found myself spiraling into despair as I clung to the hope of redemption, both for Lila and myself. As I prepared for a final confrontation, a sense of determination settled in my bones. The house beckoned with an urgency. I couldn't ignore the growing seed of responsibility that bloomed inside my chest. I decided to conduct my own seance, aided by the diary and the artifacts I had found. Armed with resolve, I lit candles once more, preparing for what was to come. As the room filled with damp wood and age, shadows flickered menacingly, wrapping around me like tendrils of anxiety. I called for Lila, sensing the air shift. "I'm here to help you," I whispered, each word flavored with desperation. I closed my eyes, inviting her presence. The moment my eyes fluttered shut, Lila's spirit emerged, shimmering in that familiar glow. But this time, The energy felt different. The shadows twisted violently, filling the room with chaos. "You cannot bind me." A malicious voice roared from the depths of despair. I felt darkness claw at my very being, slick and insidious. The room itself felt alive, the foundation of the house twisting as if trying to expel me from within its depths. I had inadvertently awakened something malevolent, something that had thrived on sorrow and despair for generations. The walls inhaled and exhaled with a palpable menace, and I understood I was facing not only a spirit, but a malevolence that sought to maintain control over Ravenswood. I might tie myself deeper into the fabric of the curse. The thought weighed heavily on me. Would I trade my freedom for hers? In that moment, I understood. The darkness siphoning my power was fed by fear. Confronting the specter of my lineage didn't mean sacrificing myself, but embracing the courage to unshackle Lila and restore light to the darkness that had constrained both of us for too long. With resolve, I drew a small knife from my pocket, my palm slick with sweat as I made a shallow cut on my palm. As crimson droplets fell to the ground, I sensed the shadows erupt, their anguished cries washing over me in a tidal wave. "You will pay for this trespass," they shrieked, dark tendrils lashing out as they writhed in agony. With pain blooming in my palm, I stood firm against an onslaught of misery and rage. "No more," I yelled, channeling my energy into calling Lila forth. The shadows hissed, recoiling in response to my declaration, but I could feel the pull of despair threatening to overwhelm me. "Lila, it's time to break free," I exclaimed, my voice echoing through the dimly lit chamber. The air thickened, pulsating with the energy of our bond, our pain, grief, and ultimately our hope. With the darkness surging, Lila emerged, her ethereal form glowing brightly as though seeking strength within me. "Together," she whispered, drawing near. In unison, we confronted the malevolence that had held her captive. In that moment, the strength of her sorrow intertwined with my resolve, unleashing a radiant light that enveloped the room, battling back the darkness. Echoes of pain and regret faltered beneath our unity. The wall screamed in despair, but I knew we would prevail. As Lila's essence merged with mine, the shadows retreated, their screeches fading into silence. "Thank you," Lila breathed, her figure shimmering with a warmth that filled the cold corners of Ravenswood. The darkness, once so consuming, dissipated as if tethered to nothingness. Finally, freed, she stepped forward with a grace that transcended all suffering. The room shifted, glowing more warmly, and the house sighed in relief as Lila's anguish lifted. The whispers softened, replacing fear with a calming presence that filled the once oppressive space with peace. I felt my heart swell with joy, relief pouring through me, washing away the remnants of despair. In the light of the morning sun streaming through the windows, Ravenswood House lay transformed. The air felt lighter, filled with the scent of blooming wildflowers that danced. Outside, despite knowing that echoes of the past would always linger, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of closure. Lila had reclaimed her peace, and with her release, the shadows that haunted the house had faded. I stepped outside, heart bursting with newfound freedom, determined to share Lila's story, a story of pain turned into resilience. The vivid colors of the dawn painted over the nightmares that had crept through my mind for so long. The fear that had once kept me prisoner dissolved, replaced by a promise of hope. As weeks passed, I made the decision to transform Ravenswood into a place of remembrance. I reached out to the townsfolk, sharing Lila's story and the truth of my family's legacy. I brought together the community, inviting them to honor the lost and remember those who had suffered. Ravenswood became more than just stone and wood. It was a testament of perseverance against darkness. Each renovation was accompanied by prayers and offerings for the souls that had lingered for far too long. In opening the house for such gatherings, I began to facilitate healing not only for myself, but for the entire community. My life took on new meaning, and although the memories of Ravenswood remained, they evolved. Therapy became a path I embraced wholeheartedly, helping me sift through the layers of trauma, relinquishing blame for my family's choices. I still felt Lila's spirit guiding me, a constant reminder of how our choices define us, and I resolved to craft a narrative of strength and survival. I began speaking at local schools about the importance of understanding one's history and confronting pain rather than allowing it to fester. Lila's haunting spirit transformed to one of wisdom, urging young minds to appreciate the value of light over darkness, love over greed, and the importance of compassion. Months later, as the full moon rose once again, I found myself standing at the edge of the woods where Ravenswood House had once dominated like a beast. I closed my eyes, memories flooding over me, the sorrow and victory intertwined. I pondered the journey I had been through, the ties to my family that for so long had felt like chains around my spirit. As the moonlight spilled through the trees, I felt a gentle breeze embrace me, a touch so familiar yet so light. It was Lila. In that moment, I understood the significance of her spirit lingering nearby. She was finally free, and perhaps, in some way, she had become my guardian. 2 days turned into weeks, and as seasons changed, I could feel Ravenswood's energy flowing beneath my feet. It was no longer a place rooted in fear, rather, a sanctuary where stories were shared, where darkness transformed into connection. I learned that legacy meant understanding the weight of our past, to carry it forward, but not let it confine us. With each story recounted and every candle lit, Lila's essence flourished alongside my own journey, and the bond we had formed was woven into the fabric of Ravenswood itself. My life grew richer as I embraced the world with renewed vigor. Each laughter and tear became a tribute to her resilience. As years passed, I became an advocate for mental health, fundraising, and sharing the struggles faced by those haunted by the past. My platform was dedicated to honoring Lila and the many lost souls bound to their family legacies. With every heartbeat, I felt the echoes of Ravenswood resonating within me, a reminder of the power of compassion and understanding. I visited the house often, never to dwell within its walls, but to remember the journey, a pilgrimage to appreciate the paths I had traversed. On quiet nights when the moon was full, I would sit under the stars, feeling Lila's spirit dance in the breeze, guiding me toward a future filled with hope, love, and an unwavering commitment to break the cycles that had once bound our families. Standing beneath the shimmering sky, I whispered to the night, a promise filled with grace. Thank you for choosing me. And with each word, I felt Lila's spirit, an ethereal glow, enveloping me, whispering that both our journeys were far from over.